I've just tweeted that. You might want to read. Oh no, don't bother.
What's that?
Don't need to lose the connection. So I was going to say you might want to retweet, but don't do anything with your phone. Or you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, it takes a minute for that to replicate on YouTube, I think. So I'll just wait for that to go live. Okay. Yeah, great. Okay, so I think it's up and running. We're joined here at the moment by Andrew Day and Jamila Hanan, who are best described, I guess, guys, as activists who are working specifically on the specifically to help refugees who are Rohingya Muslims who have been driven out of Burma across the border into Bangladesh. And maybe we could start by describing who the Rohingya are. Jamila, could you want to give us a quick background?
Hi. Yeah, Hi, sorry, yeah, I just had some echo there. Yeah, so the Rohingya, they are a Muslim minority who originates in Burma, or Myanmar, as it's known now. They're a persecuted minority and have been so for quite a long time. They trace their history back generations, but the Burmese government insist that they are illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. In 1982, their citizenship was removed from them, and since then they've had a number of temporary identification kind of cards to see them through, but there's been a number of attacks on them, organised attacks to try and push them out of the country.
There was a surge in violence in 2012. Many people will remember that.
Yes.
Hundreds of people were killed in a new wave of violence.
Yeah, and that's really when I got involved myself, when that started happening. Somebody alerted me to the fact that that was going on, and it wasn't in the media. So when I looked into it, I was really shocked by what I saw, and I just felt I should dedicate my time to try and draw awareness to what was happening, and was put in touch with a number of people within the country through telephone and social media. There was a couple of Rohingya activists on Twitter who weren't really widely known, and I used my quite large platform of followers to try and get them some recognition. And so I've really kind of been involved from the beginning, but Andrew was also an online activist, really supportive of various causes, and spotted what was happening as well, and was incredibly supportive, and has gotten more and more involved. And really Andrew has, as the campaign has grown, Andrew's really just taken it one step further and gone over there and is doing, really literally dedicated his life to helping these people. And he's currently in Bangladesh. Obviously there's a lot of refugees leaving the country for the surrounding countries, and there's really a big crisis happening at the moment in Bangladesh with thousands of Rohingya there who, a lot of them left Burma in the 90s and have had children there, and the population's grown. They've never been allowed to go back, or the situation's never been stable enough for them to return. And then there's been a new wave of refugees over the past few years. But there is definitely an effort to push them out of Burma at the moment, and also there seems to be a lot of redevelopment happening in Bangladesh. It just seems that the Rohingya are in the way. They're an unwanted people, and really struggling to survive.
Andrew, as Jamila says, you were recently at the camps in Bangladesh along the Burmese border, this narrow peninsula, which is looks to all intents and purposes like marshland, really. Can you give us a sense of what life is like for those people there?
Well, in the border area, there are several registered camps for the Rohingya. There's a little over 30,000 registered Rohingya living within 2 camps. So one on either side of the Friendship Road that takes you to Myanmar from Bangladesh. There's one on either side, and all around these camps and in between them there are hundreds of thousands of refugees that have come from Myanmar, mostly Rohingya people, all kinds of Burmese Muslims. There's a Rakhine community there as well, right almost across the road from the registered camp. But hundreds of thousands of these unregistered refugees have made makeshift camps, and they do have gates and leaders in some areas, and the one that we've been talking the most about social media this week is called Leda. I always thought it was Lida, but it's Leda here, but they pronounce it. It's right next to Nayapara refugee camp. And right now, a few weeks ago, there was one organization there, and they were asked to leave. And they were handling medical in the area. So for a few weeks now, there's been no medical treatment there whatsoever.
What organization was that?
That was Muslim Aid.
Muslim Aid. So 13,000 people at that camp. And they were asked to leave by?
Well, the people weren't asked to leave. The organization was. So these people in this camp now, there's currently 13,000 people, all with at least one member of each family, it seems, that have symptoms of typhoid and diarrhea and things of that nature. And there's 0 facilities for them. So the stuff is kind of spreading, and there's a lot of, this week alone, 8 infant to toddler, we'll say 8 babies passed away in that camp. We don't really know why, like dehydration for the diarrhea and things like that. And there's no water, which is a huge issue right now. Everybody, if they get water, it's polluted water. So right now there's these 13,000 people, and a lot of them are sick, and they're getting sicker. Everybody's getting sicker because as the dry season approaches an end, hopefully soon. But right now everything is kind of dried up. And
how did they subsist? How did they get food? Or are they able to work in casual employment, or what's their situation?
Well, it depends on which camp you're in. Leda is in a very sensitive area because it's along that border, so you can basically walk outside Leda camp and you can see Naf River, and on the other side you can see Myanmar. So a lot of people, this is where they cross the river to try to smuggle themselves into Bangladesh. And there's a lot of, it's a hard area due to many reasons, and when you have that many people that there are no laws to protect it can be easily turned into a place where you have almost like a limitless supply of people that you can use to do bad bidding, we'll say, so be that prostitution or drug trafficking or human trafficking. That's the area that would be most susceptible to that. So that whole area is quite sensitive, and it's a hard place for people to get casual employment because everybody's watching everybody. Now, a few weeks back, we visited a different unregistered camp, and that was the area. I don't know if you read, there was, it says up to 7,000, the reports are 7,000 Rohingya unregistered refugees in a camp called Shaplapur. Now that's not near the other camps, that's on the coastal side of Bay of Bengal. So that area isn't quite as sensitive, and the people in that area, the Rohingya, they'll work as fishermen. The locals own fishing boats, and they'll work as fishermen for the locals, and they look out for each other fairly well in that area. Everybody gets along quite harmoniously.
Recently, there was an incident at Cox's Bazaar, which is up the road from one of the main camps, where I believe over 100 or so refugees were being transported and confronted by authorities, and there was clashes with authorities between.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yeah. That wasn't really something I was personally in touch with. That says Cox's Bazaar. Now, Cox's Bazaar can run from here, and it carries a fairly vast area. Now, Cox's Bazaar City, much more centrally located to the tourist area. So, now I did read it. I didn't have much personal contact with that area, so I can't. It's something normal to happen, you know. But what happened really versus what I've read, I really don't know what the story was. But
can you tell us, Andrew, a bit about the aid that you're delivering there, and without implicating yourself, how you're getting that in there? Because I understand that there is some difficulty from time to time for you.
Yeah, basically, if the need is bad enough, you'll find a way. It's not always the particular way that stuff will go down, but you'll find good people who work with you. It's hardy enough and courageous enough to do the right thing, and everybody pulls together one way or another. We did the YouTube video of the rice distribution. That was in Shaplapur, which is that calmer camp that I explained, where the locals, they and get along. So that area is a little sensitive to bring stuff in there, but we just rented a truck and we brought the stuff in. Got the people ready.
What stuff are you bringing in?
Sorry?
What kind of aid are you delivering?
I can't hear you. You asked what I'm delivering?
Yeah.
In Shaplapur was rice. Because really they started to rebuild once the eviction happened along the beach by the police. They kind of pushed back to the main road and rebuilt their homes. By the time we got there, the rebuilding process was already happening, so we just said we'd give them a boost and we'd bring them some rice. That area we'd also like to bring some blankets and stuff too. Not that it's cold now; it's starting to come out of the dry winter season. But get some blankets they can sleep on, saving being under, if nothing else. That area, that's what they need. Water isn't an issue there. On the other side of the camp, not so much Katupalong registered camp and area, they're okay, but once you go farther down Naf River to the Teknaf area, Leda camp and Nyapara camp, they're facing, and it happens like clockwork every year. Once the reservoirs and once the groundwater dries up, they run out of water. So there's pretty much everybody in that region is in a water crisis, and the worst of those areas would be a place like Leda, where there isn't infrastructure. If you go into the registered camps, they're quite crowded, but there's infrastructure. So there's wells in some places, and there's pipe work throughout the camp from a reservoir. But in Leda, there's nothing like that available. So they need to go to streams or water wherever it is. So you'll see pictures like Jamila tweeted of people collect water, and you can see it's quite brown water. It's definitely not good for you, and it's a dirty place anyway. There's garbage everywhere, animals everywhere, and it's not clean. This is what they're drinking, and people typhoid because they're drinking this water and don't have proper sanitation there. So it's just running rampant in that area. But even the registered camp, it's still a problem,
That sounds very challenging. So is there any support from the local authorities for the camps?
And any like help aid wise?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, as a matter of fact, it seems to be all of the people that we talk to, locals, they'd be willing to go in there and help, but they're just afraid what the government's going to do to them. They're pretty sure they'll get arrested if they go in there. I'm not one to speak on what the actual stance for this stuff is, but it seems to be a consensus across the board of anybody who's involved trying to bring stuff into one of those camps are basically saying, we could get arrested for this, but we'll help you anyway. So it's the consensus, so whatever the truth of it is, I don't know. We had one person call the camp leader of Leda about a water distribution, and with all of the talks that people had given, I expected a completely different response from the man. And in this conversation, he didn't deny anything to go in there. He just said, make sure there's a minimum of 10 liters per family if you're going to do it. It sounded like an acceptable thing to me. It's not something that I was personally able to provide at the time. There's 21,000 liters that would have to go in there. I don't even know if that much water is available in this place at the moment because it's all dried up. But this is what the response, which didn't seem like you're going to get arrested for making this phone call, but
and Jamila,
everybody is nervous.
Is there any way for international organizations who do have those kind of resources to get aid in, and is that happening?
Well, what we understand is, I think it was a few years ago, in 2012, when the attacks were happening on the Burmese. Around about then, they started. The Bangladesh government didn't want any more Rohingya coming into the country and didn't want to encourage them, so they started stopping the international agencies from giving assistance to the Rohingya. So from what I understand, the registered camp, of which there's about 30,000, they get some aid from the United Nations and probably other organisations. But the other Rohingya, which is the vast majority, as Andrew said, hundreds of thousands of them, officially organisations are not allowed to help them. Whether there's a few that manage to work there, and I think a few manage to indiscreetly get some help in that they can, but the official line is that they're not allowed, and people are arrested. I don't think they're, from what I've heard, kept permanently in prison, but are arrested and removed from the area. And so this is the problem. So I know with this current crisis, everybody said, where's UNICEF, where's Médecins Sans Frontières? And we understand it's a really sensitive situation because they don't want to jeopardise their whole work in the country. At the same time, who can leave people just to die like that in full view now? In full view, we uploaded a video just today of a young boy who's clearly dying, and his father's there pleading for help, and there's no medicine and no clean water. And if only there was an official permission granted for some of these agencies to go in and help, I'm sure they would be in, today, tomorrow.
So these people truly are persecuted in the sense that they're facing violence in Rakhine State in northwestern Burma, and they have no hope of any sort of life within Bangladesh. Is there any political pressure at the moment to change the situation?
Well, over the past few years, we as activists keep pushing everybody, the media, organisations, governments, lobbying MPs, and gradually over that time there's been an increased awareness. It has had more coverage in the media, in and out, when it's I guess when they've got no other stories to fill, or when Obama visits Burma, then it will get in the media. There is a lot of strong feeling amongst individuals, but it seems that the business priorities always rule over human rights. I'm really disgusted with my government, the British government. They're really full steam ahead with business opportunities. They've recently had a big business conference there. And the Rohingya issue really just appears to be an inconvenience. So, are you still there? Sorry. No.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't see. It's just the camera went. Yeah. They seem to be an inconvenience. I don't know if I don't personally feel there is any political pressure that is strong enough to change the course of events at this current time. I'm still hopeful that they will. I think public opinion is building that this is disgraceful. But business continues as before. Really, it's the business developments that are pushing these people out quickly to make way for these business developments. This is what it seems. And the level of persecution is just so huge. It's just really unbelievable. The tragedy that these people have been enduring, really for decades, but in the past couple of years, an almost impossible life. Their thousands had their homes burned. Hundreds to thousands, we don't know exactly how many, were actually slaughtered. There's regular rapes, gang rapes, women raped by the military, people tortured regularly, even kids, even women, regularly put in the stocks. We send pictures out over social media of women held in stocks like in the Middle Ages. And this is actually happening, and what are our governments doing? And then they've also in Burma also been deprived of aid a certain time. Médecins Sans Frontières were thrown out. It's always difficult to get aid in, but people persevere and try to do that. So their options are to try and leave the country. A lot of them fall into human trafficking. A lot of them drown at sea. Some of them make it to Bangladesh, where they're just living in unbelievable squalor. Some of them are sold into slavery. It is just such a miserable existence. And these are human beings with these are precious lives,
Of course, the irony of this is that the irony of it is that the persecution began with the military junta in Burma, but since the transition to democracy in 2011, my understanding is the freedom of speech has created this groundswell of hatred against this minority, and in fact, we see videos on YouTube of Buddhist monks leading the charge.
Yeah, you know, I feel very strongly, and there is evidence to suggest that really this narrative is a sham, really. The persecution has always been a political, government-led policy, always. And in this so-called transition to democracy, what they have done is they have supported and funded and promoted a group of these so-called monks, I will say, so-called Buddhists, just like you have so-called Muslims. These are not true Buddhists. And they are preaching hatred. And they are spreading propaganda that the Rohingya are not really human beings. They are like vermin to be exterminated. This is the line. And the government allows them to do this under the pretext of freedom of speech. We can't stop them. This is freedom of speech. But this is absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. The monk who is leading a lot of this, who's well known in the media now, he was released as a political prisoner in 2012. He was in prison for racial hatred, and he was released as a political prisoner, and has been promoted and supported and funded. The 969 group of these young thugs that come out with their armbands on are shipped in government vehicles into areas where they want to cause, you know, a stir. Every so-called clash, you know, apparent rapes, we strongly believe that they have all been staged and promoted to whip up hatred between communities, and fear, distrust and hatred. And this government is benefiting politically. The Burmese government, the Myanmar government, is benefiting from this fear and hatred that they are generating.
In what way is it benefiting?
Because they use this hatred line on various ways. There's the Rakhine population that also have a history of difficulty, problems with the central government. And so it's almost as if the central government have had a pact with the Rakhine local governments to say, look, we'll have peace, we'll work together, and we'll throw those Rohingya out. They are using it for, in the run-up to the elections, drive up hatred, be fearful of the Muslims, be fearful of the Rohingya, we're the government of stability, vote for us, we'll bring the order that you need. You know, don't trust this, what's happening, this opening up. If you don't want this democracy, you don't want this freedom of speech, you need security, because these Rohingya are a danger to you. You know, it's these kind of lines, hate politics, we see it all around the world at the moment. You know, recently
the Rohingya are effectively stateless. They don't have Burmese citizenship, and they don't have Bangladeshi citizenship. They, as temporary residents, as they're termed, they were recently granted voting rights, which again caused a fresh round of protests. But wouldn't the granting of those rights suggest that they are, at least on the face of it, seeking to include the minority?
Well, what the Myanmar government always do is they do a show of progress, a small show of progress. So they granted some temporary voting cards, and then they removed them. So they get the media publication for granting these cards, and then, you know, it's all quietly, they'll just remove them now. It's like one step forward, 10 steps back, and it's always been that way with the Burmese government. If you speak to any of the organisations that have always campaigned for human rights in Burma, this is the way. It is show, it is pretense for the international community, promises, fake promises they make to, say, the American government so that sanctions will be dropped. And then they find a way of backtracking on those promises. They've not delivered on anything. And really, our Western governments and governments all around the world are supporting genocide. They're absolutely, actively involved through the continuation of funding to the Burmese government under the pretext of aid. None of this aid goes to the Rohingya. The British government have given millions to the Burmese government, and yet the Rohingya are still. They used to have homes. That's the tragedy. They actually used to have their homes. They had built themselves an existence. They were struggling, but they were improving. They had hope. And then in 2012, a lot of those homes were destroyed. And so now they're living in tents.
What sparked that surge in violence in 2012?
Yeah, well, there were two attacks. The first big attacks. The first one was in June, which was allegedly a rape, which really there was never any proof other than photos all over social media. And then they went and rounded up some Rohingya lads. Goodness knows what happened to them. I dread to think. And under that, there was a lot of propaganda distributed before to stage a kind of run-in with the Rohingya and the local Rakhine, and then very quickly the Rohingya were outnumbered and slaughtered, and the military and the police stood by and watched and let it happen. The next attack that happened in October, it was a similar scenario, except it's been explained to me by human rights organisations that the second time the Rohingya didn't even have a chance to fight back or anything. They were literally just mowed down and driven out of a huge area. Very, very organised. And there's been a number of smaller attacks, and some of them particularly horrific, even though they're smaller in scale, that have all followed the same procedure, the same tactics, the same propaganda that's spread. Even before they do these attacks, we know sometimes we can predict they're going to happen because they move into areas, they remove all the telecommunications equipment, they remove anything that can be used as a weapon, they remove any cooking knives, anything from the Rohingya, just the Rohingya. And then this is a sensitive time, something might happen. And that's where we step in as activists to try and spread words. Well, you've got to watch this area, something might be about to happen there.
And on the getting to that point, and specifically to your work in delivering aid, how are you supported financially? How are you funded? Help with that, and also you're a sole operator, so what accountability is there around the monies that you receive?
Well, it's really just grown on a very kind of personal level. We're not an organisation and we're not funded. We've this particular time had an effort to fundraise in particular for the work that Andrew is doing in Bangladesh. We're very clear that we're not an organisation. This money is going straight to Andrew. Here's his work. He doesn't take a penny for himself. And that's, if you want to give to us, then that's fine. If you don't, then that's fine. And here are some other organisations that we can recommend if you don't want to give to us. We have looked in the past at setting up an organisation. The problem is the nature of what we do is, if Andrew was an organisation, probably he wouldn't be able to be there now doing what he's doing. The beauty of the fact that we're all individuals just doing our best means we can move and see opportunities and try and make connections between organisations. There's no, people don't have to be worried about who are we working for, what is our funding. We don't have funding. We're just literally individuals, concerned individuals. We're not associated with any government, any country. And we just get by. I guess we're just a network of friends and organisations. I guess we try and act as a bit of glue between organisations that are out there and make those personal contacts with people that are really important.
Okay, very good. And so, just again on the point of accountability, do you publish accounts, or do you publish details of where the money goes?
Yeah. Well, we had a few years ago, what we decided to do was just to fundraise and do a crowdfunding effort to send a couple of journalists, just independent journalists, to Burma And we did that, and we had a couple of quite sizable donations, and I think in total we raised about £5,000. And then what we did was it was quite casual, you know, we'd give the money as it came in to whoever, but we did take a log of everything that was spent to every penny, so that if anybody wanted that, then they could see exactly where the money went. That was really the only big time that we did something big, and this is the next time. We've had a couple of personal donations, and what we've done quite often in the past is instead of us even touching the money, it goes straight to the Rohingya. So sometimes we'll give, say, a Western Union name of a Rohingya person in that camp, and we'll say, if you want to help that person buy a new roof, or if you want to make, you know, buy some medicine for that little girl, here's the person, and they send it directly. So as much as we can, we send donations directly to the people. You know, I don't even have this money going in my bank account. I don't want it to. You know, it's too much of a responsibility. And so a lot of times people say, look, can I do a bank transfer? Can you just send me your bank details? And say, I can't. This can't go in my account. I'm not in an organisation, and I try and pass this on to whoever we can, who can actually literally go out and spend it, one of the Rohingya or whoever. And yeah, so that's basically how we've managed so far to get by.
Very good. Andrew, recently you delivered aid to one of the camps, and I understand that some of that aid was then taken by local citizens of the refugees. Is that correct?
That's not correct. What had happened was the same day that we brought our aid in, there was another group of people, not I don't think an organization, but a privately funded effort similar to what we've done. So most likely a relative that lives in the area or something of that nature donated money. And so that distribution happened in the morning, and ours happened in the afternoon. But in the morning, someone, I don't know the exact amount, but someone took a list of families' names, and they each got however many thousand takas. So they might have got between I don't know, 10 and 20 pounds or something worth of money per family. And from what I understand, some of those people were attacked and had the money taken from them. Our distribution happened in the evening time, and you can see the pictures and the video of that. We had very minimal adults in the area. We just gave to the students of the madrasas and things like that whose families were affected. And the kids on their way home from school just happened to have rice opposed to money, cash in hand to adults. And it worked. There was no problems with ours at all. So we gave 7 kilograms of rice, so a hefty bag of rice for the kid to carry home. 7 kilograms. We did 200 families, so not a huge distribution, but it was just a little boost. Where really we just bought a truck and sent some rice. That's what we did. There was no asking anybody. There's no doing anything. We just send a truck of rice. We talked about something similar today, and basically it was like, okay, there's a bit of me. It's like, here's these bad things, but I also hear good things. It's almost like provoking. It's like, if someone's going to stop me from bringing water, stop us from bringing water to people who are dying of dehydration, I kind of want them to stop me now so I can point out that they're a monster. You know, you get to that point, but then it becomes risky and things like that. But it's
so tell us, guys, we're going to have to wrap up here, I think, pretty shortly. So how can people find you and engage with you online, on social, elsewhere?
Well, most of our communications are done via Twitter. I'm obviously at Jamila Hanan. Andrew is at Andrew_day 1982. I write a blog. I blog to it occasionally. There's a RohingyaBlogger.com website, which is good to keep up to date with news. We work closely with the editor of that. There's a group of us, growing group of activists, and you can generally pick up who we are if you just follow the Rohingya tag on Twitter. We really value people getting involved, and that's how we are effective. The more people there are involved in this, tweeting about it, talking to media, and just brainstorming on what they can do, the more effective we can be. We are using social media as a communications network. What's been great with this recent crisis, what happened is one Rohingya person who we knew, but we didn't know this crisis was going on. This crisis was in the camp just next door to Andrew, but I just spotted him putting some photos online saying these people are dying, they've got no water, they've got no medicine. And so I said to Andrew, is this anywhere near you? He said, yeah, it's just next door. I said, can you go and verify it? He went and checked and said, yeah, this is the case. The kids have swollen bellies, there's loads of people sick. So we were then able to work together, the three of us, to try and keep the information coming out and to try and address what is the situation. Can we get some water in? Can we try and find a doctor? This wouldn't have happened without the growing network of activists who've been able to contribute in lots of different ways, reaching out to other organisations, giving hints on who might be able to help, giving us emails, putting us in touch with people. This interview here wouldn't have happened without that buzz that was created on social media.
Of course.
That we are probably there's going to be more media coverage of this particular issue now. This might get back onto the political agenda again. The Bangladeshi government might be asked to consider allowing more aid in to help these people. This is the crazy thing. We're not even asking the Bangladeshi government to support these people, to give them aid, just to let people in to help them and stop kids dying, basically. This is just a human issue. We all want the human rights issue sorted out in Myanmar. We want the Rohingya to be able to live in Myanmar, where they originated. If they want to. I mean, some of them have been born in Bangladesh. It's a difficult issue, but that's not what we're about. We're about just keeping people alive. We're about just trying to support people who have been completely forgotten and rejected by society. The world really have rejected, forgotten these people. It's just not acceptable. Not in modern, not today. This is not acceptable, and this has to change. Well, so I just want to say, big, huge thank you to everybody who has donated, especially recently and previously. Every donation is so valuable to us, even if it's a couple of pounds, and some people have been really extremely generous. We did notice an anonymous donation of $1,000 coming. We don't know where it came from. People will.
Where can people donate?
Well, we've got a little fundraising page that I'm constantly tweeting, and I'll tweet it again after this, and Andrew's always tweeting it. And there's a few partner organisations that we just try and work with. Lonely Orphans is one of them. At Lonely Orphans, they've just set up a fantastic Rohingya sponsorship scheme where you can sponsor a Rohingya orphan, which Andrew's been working really closely to get that off the ground. There's other organisations. Partners Relief are active in Myanmar and hoping to help out with this situation as well. So we are, there are other organisations as well we can support.
I can't pronounce Nordine's group. What's that one from the Netherlands? They started a campaign to help with the water here too.
And I'm really sorry I've forgotten its name as well, but I will tweet it after this so that people can see that there's a group in the Netherlands that are supporting. And we welcome any organisation that thinks we can help these people. Andrew's there to give you contacts, to help you get in, to help you with logistics, whatever. Just use us. And same with the media. If anybody wants contacts, we're always just willing to try and help people get in touch with the people that they need to speak to.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, tremendous work, and continued success with it. And we will save this video, put it onto YouTube, and I think we have a lot of background material, and of course your material as well, and we'll put all of that together too. And the guys that reportedly have been live tweeting this and quoting you through the conversation, so there's an archive there too. Okay, thanks very much, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care,
and be safe, Andrew.
Yeah,
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.